Welcome to the Roundup Podcast with your host, Bonnie Pippola, and our special guest of the day,
Ben Barrett.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm alive. I'm ready for the weekend.
Yeah, same.
I'm ready to go through these episodes, especially this one. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's see it.
Apparently, this story is actually from Canada. Apparently, an Ontario school board has accused of pressuring teachers to not teach, quote, racist, unquote, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, snap.
Yep.
What?
Yes.
It's considered okay, keep going.
Yeah, so this school board sent out a memo that doesn't officially ban the books, but it essentially advocates that teachers do not, teach this book because it apparently advocates for this idea of a white savior. I don't know if have you read To Kill a Mockingbird?
I have read To Kill a Mockingbird.
I haven't.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So you can enlighten me on this so-called white savior?
White
Like, that's
savior.
what the board is like.
So, that's weird. I've never heard of something. So, is this a larger thing that people are trying to, be against white savior figures or something?
Maybe I'm not sure.
Is this a movement?
I think. Well, I know in the United States there's been some local school boards where they try to do similar things, trying to ban To Kill a Mockingbird and similar books of the era.
Well, Huckleberry Finn,
because there's language in there.
But To Kill a Mockingbird, I don't believe. I could be wrong. Maybe it does have a couple uses of the N-word, but
the broader message is
the message is not about in Huckleberry Finn. They're actually, I believe, using the word derogatory. Main characters using it, whereas in To Kill a Mockingbird, if anyone's using it, it's not the quote unquote good guys or whatever.
Right.
No, that's interesting. So is the argument the fact that they don't want people to think that that only white people can save black people from their situation? Is that why they're considering it racist or something?
They argue that it was harmful, violent, and oppressive to black students because of the white savior, whatever, that was the word or verbiage that they were using. Also, they claimed that it would make black characters, based off of what the book was saying, less than human.
Less than human.
So that was their argument. They even an interesting part of this memo is that it even gave a list of questions that a teacher should consider if he or she were to teach this book, including, am I consciously aware of racial issues?
Well, that sounds like a good question. That's
right.
What the book deals with.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
Do I possess critical consciousness? Have I done the work or engaged in activities to reveal/interrogate my biases? So they give these lists of questions to make sure, is the teacher,
That's dumb.
actually teaching?
Okay.
Does that individual have, the so-called skills, as the board is trying to claim, to actually teach this book?
See, while they're saying, well, if you choose to teach this, it should be with these questions, I think that by choosing not to teach a difficult book to possibly talk about, they're avoiding opportunities for their students to learn.
Right, especially
you
for
should be teaching books with controversial and other difficult issues. Right. Otherwise, why are you going to school? You should be...
And for such a tumultuous period. There's a difference between a book written in, the 2018... from someone who hasn't had any experience living in that era to someone who published this book in the middle of the civil rights movement. I'm forgetting her name. Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird. She published this. The setting was, I believe, 1930s Alabama. So she actually was able to see this with her own eyes. So I think it's just from that perspective, understanding how society was, at least within the 1930s South, it gives a lot of imagery to those students who haven't had the chance, obviously, since they were born recently after that period, getting some sort of idea and aspects of what life was like in the South.
Yeah, I think one of the, if they're saying part of their problem with it is a white savior figure, I would, challenge, clearly there was opportunities for, African Americans to help other, this had to deal with a lynching, No, this had to deal with he was accused of raping this girl who he clearly didn't because he wasn't physically they were able to basically prove it was impossible for him to do it, but he was accused of it anyway. Right. And part of the problem at that time is in the South you couldn't you really couldn't be a black lawyer in the South. They would not let you because of Jim Crow. it was very, very difficult for that to be the case and to have any legitimacy. So from a historical point of view, there's no, like, the situation was what it was because that's history. That's how it would have been at that time period.
Right.
She's not trying to make a statement that only white people can save black people from their situation.
Right. And the board is like trying to say, well, we're not really banning the book. Because, I mean, the memo doesn't say we're banning the book. They're just advocating for you to not use it. But, I mean, in essence, if the board is saying this, imagine if you were to teach the book, the board would probably not support you if any issues do come up. So it's kind of a de facto ban.
Yeah, I don't know. My opinion is, like, I'm against any sort of bans or telling people you can't teach any sort of book.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for every single book to be looked at within its context. Like, any book. Like, if you're talking about Looking for Alaska by John Green, where it has, sexual scenes in it, but, like, it should be taught. And because of the way, like, John Green, if you look up his stuff, like, that book's been banned certain places, but that's a difficult thing to talk about. But it should be talked about in a very protective, a setting where it encourages discussion and conversation.
Rather than just outright banning it just because.
Just because of content.
Yeah.
And I mean,
context.
I understand if some parents are like, no, I don't want that for my child, and they can sign a waiver or whatever. But it doesn't mean that everyone else can't experience learning about something.
Yeah.
You know.
And believe it or not, this was actually not even the only book mentioned in the memo.
Of course.
You want to guess some others?
Okay, Huckleberry Finn. Did it mention Tom Sawyer? No.
Nah, it's actually Lord of the Flies.
What?
Yes.
Okay, that book.
And Of Mice and Men.
Okay, I have not read Of Mice and Men. I have heard of that one, but I've read Lord of the Flies.
Same, and I'm trying to think, maybe the murder of,
I mean, you could argue...
Just sorry for the audience, but, Piggy dies.
Spoilers.
Wasn't it Piggy?
I think so.
Yeah, so Piggy dies, if I'm not mistaken, in Lord of the Flies, so...
they insult him for being fat. You could talk about fat shaming.
Yeah, but I feel like murder is, on a whole new level. Maybe that was their perspective. I don't know. But, I mean, I'm just saying,
And I think there's, certain racial comments against black people. But that's the point. You have to talk about these things. You can't just be like, oh, we don't want our children to read this because it has some messed up stuff or the writer had biased opinions. Guess what? That's the real world. You need to read these things and then talk about them and point them out. Yeah. Otherwise, the child will not learn.
Yeah, and understand, how has society changed, depicting these characters because they are a representation of, some sort of way about how society looks at certain races or classes. So you're basically depriving kids of, a lens of how to look at history in itself.
Right, and the best place to learn about these things and look through it is at school.
Right, and original sources, those original novels.
It's because it's hard to talk about. You should talk about it at school. The easy stuff to talk about, why are you wasting your time on it now?
Yeah, well, this has been a pretty good episode. Thank you again. That looks like that's all the time we have. Ben, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
And talking about To Kill a Mockingbird and censorship in general.
Yeah.
If you all loved this episode and want to look at some more, go ahead, subscribe, follow, so forth, and whatever social media platforms we have. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.